I'm Caroline Dowd-Higgins. Thank you for listening to Your Working Life, my podcast series featuring thought leaders in the career and personal growth arena. You spend a significant portion of your life at work, so I'm on a mission to provide you with tools, inspiration, and resources so you can enjoy your career and love your life. And I'm delighted to welcome my very special guest to the show today, Susannah Marren. Susannah, welcome to the show.
Oh, thank you for having me on.
I'm really excited to talk about your wonderful new book, but let me tell the audience about you. Susannah Marren is an established writer of nonfiction women's issue books and has authored 13 books in total. She teaches gender studies at Marymount Manhattan College and is a well-recognized gender expert. She is a frequently sought after author by newspapers, television shows, and radio programs to comment on women's issues, and she also blogs for the Huffington Post and Psychology Today. Susannah writes fiction under a pen name, so her given name is Susan Shapiro Barish, and she will be sharing the details about that. And this brand new novel is called Between the Tides, and it's published by St. Martin's Press, and I'm eager to dive into a juicy conversation, Susannah. So tell me, what inspired you to write Between the Tides?
Well, as you said, Caroline, I had written 13 nonfiction women's issue books, and I've taught gender studies at Marymount Manhattan College in New York for many years. And I've been endlessly intrigued by the lives of women, whether you're married or not married, women of all ages, all different social strata, ethnicity, the emotional journey of women in America. And so, as someone who wanted both fiction and nonfiction in her life, I love both forms. I have always read both. I thought it was time to take all that I had uncovered and actually create it as a fictional story.
Wow. Was it a lovely point of departure for you? I bet it was an exciting journey.
Really exciting journey. As you know, the book is told in two voices, that of Lainey and Jess. They knew each other back in the day and are reconnected in their early 40s. Now they're wives and mothers. And what's interesting is how the stakes are raised. So these women were always competitive. I've been very interested in female rivalry. What is a frenemy? What is an authentic friend? So once they connect, the book takes them on quite a dark and curious journey together.
Yes, my goodness. So let's dive into your usage of a pen name, because that is a wonderful liberty that we have in the writing world. And it's to my knowledge, really just used exclusively there. It's pretty rare that we see that in any other career field. What prompted you to use a pen name?
Well, I've been published by St. Martin's for most of my books, and I've been with them a very long time. And when I spoke with St. Martin's about the idea of writing a novel, a woman's novel, I said I'd like a pen name at about the same time that they said you should write this under a pen name.
Ah, okay.
The idea was really to differentiate my work and the genres. They're so different.
So does it give you a bit of an identity crisis when people are referring to your beautiful pen name, or did it slip on easily?
Well, let's be really honest. My pen name is a lot dreamier and better than my real name. So it's kind of cool to be, kind of a treat to really, how often do you get to do that?
Yeah.
To really, see a name that you want and imagined right there on your book. It's really a treat.
Oh, I bet. And did you choose it, or was St. Martin's helpful in that process?
Well, that's another part of the conversation with my editor. She said, how about a pen name? I said, I have it. And it's a name I've wanted for so many years. I told my mother I wanted it when I was in college. Can you imagine?
Oh, that's great.
And yeah, so I always wanted to be Susannah.
Oh, well, good. Well,
it's so much more lyrical, more melodic.
It's lovely. It's lovely. Oh, that's great. So what are some of the pros and cons to using a nom de plume?
Well, it was really hard before the book came out to, because this is a debut novel.
Yeah.
So, the idea was to differentiate. So it was really kind of complicated in the beginning. It was really where my friends, family, even neighbors would say to me, now, why aren't you, using Susan Shapiro Barish with your nonfiction has been, known for so long. Were you building a brand? And I would explain that this is just, so separate, as I said. So, yeah, I mean, it's now that the cat is out of the bag, it feels even more right to me.
Good for you. Well done. So let's talk, Susannah, about how you describe your book as women's fiction, right? So tell me about that, because I think about myself as an avid reader. Right, and what's going to attract me to your book? How am I going to find your book knowing that it's categorized as women's fiction?
Well, first of all, I think that studies indicate that women are more women than men read books in general. And when we say that this is commercial women's fiction, that's absolutely right. But I've had a few male readers who have really responded to the story. I think that it's a very visceral story, but it is definitely female driven. So, it's about modern life, it's about marriage and raising a daughter in particular, but it's about family. It asks very serious questions. What do women owe to themselves, to their own journey versus, the greater good, which would be husbands and houses and children, and how do women balance it? And then why are women so competitive, and what is betrayal, and what is the role of wife?
Fascinating. And I'd love to dig a little deeper. As a best-selling author of nonfiction and a gender expert, you've had this robust experience as an author in those fields. So has that helped you now in your new career as a writer of fiction?
I think that's a really interesting question because I know publishing so well. I know deadlines. I know how you outline a book. Of course, that's a little different for a novel, but I treated the writing of this book similarly to nonfiction in the sense that I really needed to annotate and outline just to follow it. But I think that publishing is publishing. You write a book, you sign a contract, you're paid, you partially paid, and then on delivery, and you know that you would like to get the word out there. You're diligent. You're alone in the room.
Right.
Right. I'm right. But I think that this is, and I was saying this to someone, it's different because for each of my nonfiction books, I interviewed hundreds of women per project. So I might have been alone in the room, but I was listening to their almost like a confessional, with all identifying characteristics changed. Here I was alone in the room, and I was creating the confessional.
Wow.
Because it's fictionalized.
So, Susannah, you really have had a career reinvention or a career change, certainly. And myself, speaking from the perspective of someone who has also gone through a major career reinvention, how does this differ from the other experience?
Well, I'm sort of starting again in the sense that it's a first time novel.
Yeah.
It's a debut novel. So you speak to everyone about it, and it is a career change. It's the first time in 18 years that I'm not teaching this fall. I'm taking off. I'm under contract for another novel under Susannah Marren.
Good for
and,
you.
Thank you. So yes, it really is, and it is very exciting. I'm a true believer that women should reinvent themselves at every age and stage.
I love to hear that. Thank you for that. And thank you for giving validation and permission to all the women listening. And my audience is almost 95% women. Certainly, we have some gentlemen listening as well. But it's lovely to hear that endorsement because I think some women are afraid to make that change.
It takes courage. It's hard to let go of what you've already built and what's known to you, especially since women tend to multitask and they tend to be involved in so many relationships, as a mother, as an adult, you have a mother, many of us have children, we have friends, we have partners or husbands. So there's so much going on. If life is a pie, it's a really, really big pie filled with expectation and responsibility for women.
And lots of different slices, right?
That's
and those portion sizes change every day.
Oh, good way of putting it. So, when I wrote the two women in the novel, Lainey and Jess, I was really looking at two very different types. I had written a book called Toxic Friends, and really tried to uncover why women need their female friends and yet don't always treat them as they should. So when Jess and Lainey are reconnected and the types, well, Lainey's dreamy and Jess is the it girl. She was the leader since she was young. That's what she wanted. Lainey's sort of an outsider. So what do they get from each other and at what price?
So, do you find yourself, Susannah, sourcing from real life, whether it's your own or other people as a fiction writer, or is it something that you weave together from your experiences and things that you create uniquely?
Well, it's a little of both, but clearly my research all these
Yeah.
years about, I wrote a book on sisters, I wrote a book on mothers-in-law and daughters-in-law. I've written several books on the role of wife in America. So those had to be included, I felt, in creating Lainey and Jess because I really had researched it for so long.
That's great. So clearly you're thriving in this new genre and this new
Yeah.
role, if you will, right? This career change. Was there any premonition earlier in your career as an author that you thought, this is coming?
Oh, yeah. I always wondered sort of when I'd get back to fiction writing. I had started it. It's so interesting. I had gone to Sarah Lawrence and I had studied, I went there specifically to write,
Hmm.
and I studied with some great writing teachers. And then I went to Columbia for my MFA, but of course, instead quit, got married, had children. And then I completed my degree at NYU. And by then I was pregnant with my third child. And I remember having a meeting with my teacher who said, "You can write journalism and you can write fiction. Let's see how your career unfolds." And
Wow.
that really is what happens for women sometimes. We go with one road and yet still yearn for the other.
And it's wonderful too to hear about your life and how beautiful things happened along the journey, which caused wonderful zigs and zags, right? And opportunities for you to change and take on new experiences.
Yeah, I think that it happens for women, again, based on my research. But the idea that we, that we're not exactly twins, we're in it together because it's the female experience, but we're also individuals. So I think, and I was keenly aware of that in writing the book and creating the two characters, but I'm also keenly aware of that with my own friends. And
Mm.
I've tried to encourage my daughters to be individuals. So that's a big theme of mine.
Oh, that's wonderful. So, Susanna, I would love it if you would give some wisdom or advice to the aspiring writers who are listening, because I know there are many. And, the publishing world, as you mentioned, is changing. And we find a lot of people diving into the I want to write a book pond. So, tell us, what would be your advice to them?
Well, I think for those of us who aspire to be writers, that's a pretty innate, very, very profound desire. I don't think someone wakes up and just says, "Gee, I think I'll write." I think you're really driven to write. And for that reason, I have known very personally that the days I don't write are not as happy as the days I do
Mm,
write. So to
yeah.
deny yourself that, I think, is really almost unfair to yourself. So you
Well,
have to
how,
be true to yourself as a writer. You
yeah.
have to take the time and expect the vicissitudes of
Yes.
publishing.
Yes.
It's a tough field, but so many are. So many fields are tough.
Very true. Well, thank you for sharing that. That's quite beautiful to really honor yourself and honor the writing. Well done. So what's next? Have you started on your next book and what's new and coming down the road?
Yes, I am about a third into my new novel, and I've signed a contract, and I'm really excited about that as well. I think it falls into the same genre, commercial slash, literary bend type female fiction. And I'm also cooking up my next nonfiction book, so it's pretty busy.
Good for you. Good for you. And Susanna, how can we buy your book and should we look to follow you online or should we strictly just follow you through your books? What do you prefer?
Oh, I would love both. So I have a website called Susannah Marren, SUSANNAH.com. And I would love to hear from readers. And the book can be bought online, Amazon, barnesandnoble.com. And then, of course, the independent booksellers. Those are always great as well.
Fantastic. Susannah Marren, also known as Susan Shapiro Barish, thank you so much. What a joy to have you on. I thank you for sharing your wisdom and expertise, and I wish you great success with your new book, Between the Tides.
Thank you so much.
And I want to thank you for tuning into Your Working Life, where my goal is to help you design your career destiny so it doesn't happen by default. True career and life satisfaction is possible, and it's time to embrace what you love doing so you can do more of it. I'm Caroline Dowd-Higgins. Take good care.